Kevin Durant definitely set the stage for free agency requesting a trade, and it's been pretty wild ever since. DeJounte Murray gets to join Trae Young in the backcourt, maximizing his youth with a young, hungry team. Rudy Gobert gets traded to Minnesota for 4 first-round picks, making that KD trade deal even more sophisticated. And Boston, a team that was just in the NBA Finals, they struck gold with the perfect pickup for the perfect need at the perfect price. So without further ado, let's talk about some of these moves so far and how I believe these teams got either worse or better through this first day and a half. Let's start with the biggest one. The Minnesota Timberwolves trade 5 players and 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. Clearly, it was never a secret that the Utah Jazz were actively looking to move on from Rudy. The duo of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert as your 2 max players, it seemed to run its course, and even with surrounding talent, that just wasn't ever enough to compete in the steadily improving West. Utah would have been stuck paying 2 guards under 6'4", $55 million next year, and a center close to 40, who we've seen become unplayable in certain playoff matchups. That's not optimal for long-term success, again, as the West continues to improve. I think it will be very interesting seeing Utah lock all in on surrounding Donovan Mitchell around more dynamic, athletic wings with size to actually compete against the Kawhis, Paul Georges, LeBrons, Lucas, Durant's, the players you have to go through in the postseason to get to that next level. Look at the last 3 playoff teams they've lost to, and look at what they've all had in common. Above average wings with size on the perimeter. Meanwhile, Utah is starting 3 players under 6'4". Now, Utah was able to get off of one of the worst contracts in the sport, if you ask me. I'm sorry. If you can't create anything for yourself offensively in 2022, I'm not comfortable paying you $200 million plus. I'm not. But now Utah, they were able to create more cap and space for a more creative, innovative roster in 2022. And they got 4 first-round picks in the process. That's a big W for Utah, and I don't say that much. Meanwhile, Minnesota, it will be easy for me to kill them having 2 centers with neither one of them being the best in the league on 2 $200 million plus contracts. But I won't, because I actually understand their thinking. Patrick Beverley, I mean, he was on an expiring contract, so how long he had left in Minnesota as a veteran player, possibly seeking a championship after this, that was a big question mark. Malik Beasley, he had 1 more guaranteed year there. And Anthony Edwards, his contract is coming up in the near future. So, you know you have a lot to juggle. For a team like Minnesota that will never, ever land big free agents like KD, LeBron, Kawhi, etc., their best hope is to draft well, retain and develop their picks like they're doing right now, and hope they become elite enough to actually compete. They got the first part down. They have 3 players that are all top 2 picks and higher, even though I'm assuming D'Lo will be gone soon, but they have 2 number 1 overall picks. They literally have no choice but to try their best to maximize Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards' winning window the best they know how. And that's getting established players on their team, even if it's at a disgusting price like Rudy Gobert. Those future picks that are 19, 20-year-olds, they're probably not going to come in and immediately help Cat and Ant win a championship, which may ultimately cause them to do what? Leave cold-ass Minnesota. So how exactly will it work? Honestly, I'm not that optimistic about it. Like, I still feel like Minnesota will run into the exact same problems Utah did with Rudy Gobert. Even though I think how much of a liability he is defensively can be overstated, we do have crystal clear evidence of teams stretching him out with smaller lineups and him basically becoming unplayable on the only side he really banks off of, defense. The Clippers in 2021, when they beat Utah, they shot 43% from deep in that playoff series. The Mavericks last year, they shot 40% from deep in the 4 games they actually won. A lot of that came from them abusing that matchup with Rudy Gobert. Like I said, Minnesota, they will run into that at some point. Now, on a positive side, Minnesota does have something that Utah never did that could help Rudy. Karl-Anthony Towns, being a naturally talented big that also can stretch the floor, ultimately helps Rudy Gobert stay on the court because the opposing teams has to play their bigs to guard Cat, which basically always gives Rudy Gobert an assignment. Kind of like Boston with Al Horford and Robert Williams. they can play those two at the same time because Al keeps defenses honest in their approach stylistically, and he can stretch the floor. Also, he can punish smaller defenders at times. Minnesota, to me, their ceiling with that duo, they can be a better version of that. The Atlanta Hawks trade Danilo Gallinari and 3 first-round picks to San Antonio for DeJounte Murray, plus a swap in 2026. At first, I kind of felt like I did with the Minnesota trade. Like, why would they do that? They already have Trae Young. But as I thought about it, this does have pretty high potential for Atlanta moving forward. Trae Young this playoffs, even for as good as he is, and I love Trae, he got exposed a little bit. And not in a bad way, but more so in a how he was used plateauing way. There's only so far you can go as a team centered around one player being the lifeline of your offense. And they ran into a team perfectly suited for that with perimeter depth to abuse Trae Young defensively. DeJounte now being on the team and taking some of the pressure off of Trae offensively has the capability of taking Trae's game to another level. He can actually become more dangerous and more of a multifaceted threat for their offense if he can adapt and learn how to play more off ball, something he's never done since he came into this league. Trae has one of the more higher usage rates in this league. He actually led the league last year in pull-up jump shots. So I'm guessing the thought process Atlanta-wise is the shared load playmaking-wise will actually give him less difficult, more efficient looks. And also defensively, Atlanta can actually have somebody to guard the opposing team's best ball handler. And maybe Jimmy Butler won't have the best series of his entire career literally against a weak-ass defensive backcourt again. The Boston Celtics just got the best deal of the free agency so far, and possibly the one that makes them the favorites in the Eastern Conference. Now, I'm still personally rocking with a healthy Milwaukee. I still feel like they win and get to the NBA championship if Chris Middleton was healthy, but that's another story. But Malcolm Brogdon definitely makes Boston very close. Brad Stevens basically just traded 5 non-starters and a first-round pick next year for a player that can possibly patch up a lot of the holes they had, specifically in the damn finals. Malcolm Brogdon is already under a pretty manageable contract up until 2025. He's also 6'5", so you don't lose out on that versatile size that you already had. He's also immediately the best playmaker you have on your team, so this was just a great move for them, and this was a steal. Not saying Malcolm Brogdon is Chris Paul or Trae Young playmaking-wise, because he's definitely not. But he can break you down off the dribble, create defensive breakdowns, getting Tatum and Brown way better looks than they had in the finals, and he can stretch the floor. All things Marcus Smart struggled with in the finals, clearly not being a true point. They didn't even lose anything significant, and now they become even more of that versatile juggernaut with all of their ball handlers basically being 6'4 plus. Like, they're in a perfect position. And as for Indiana, even though on paper it does look like a fleece, I understand it because they already have a young point guard that to me is going to be better than Malcolm Brogdon with Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm sure they just want to move on without deep financial ties to players that won't even take them to the next level. So I get their point as well. Jalen Brunson joining the Knicks, I'm gonna be honest, I'm happy for Jalen. I'm happy he got his money, he deserved it. But this doesn't move the needle for them to me at all. Like, this does nothing. I don't think they're going to be much better at all. The East and really the league, bro, it continues to get better. And the Knicks adding another solid above average point guard paired with the duo, a low ceiling ass duo of RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, that's not enough to compete in the East, bro. I'm sorry. I can actually see Jalen Brunson being a package or being a piece of a potential package to get a true star that will actually put him, as contenders. So I don't see Jalen Brunson moving the needle for him, but I am happy he got paid. John Wall joining the Clippers after being bought out by Houston, easily one of the more satisfying moves of the free agency. The Clippers, who had the almost identical problem as Boston, they didn't have a playmaker, they had dynamic wings, they had the length, they had all that, but they didn't really have anybody to create for them and make their job easier. Hopefully with John Wall, they could have patched that. I don't really know what John Wall is right now because he's only played 40 games in like the last 2 calendar years, so I don't really know exactly what he is. But even if he did lose a step, the price you got him at, it just makes it a low risk, extremely high reward move. If John Wall resembles anything of what he used to be, being one of the best playmakers in the league, putting a lot of pressure on defenses, penetrating with his ferocious approach, that could be very beneficial for a team like the Clippers that's very great from deep. Even if John Wall can't shoot the best, the Clippers have ample spacing, so he found the best home if he's anything, like I said, what he used to be. If the Clippers can stay healthy, and that's a big ass if, they will be the team to challenge Golden State, and I'm banking on that. If you guys like the video, like the video. And before you leave, actually tell me what's been your favorite move so far. Like the move that you think is going to make the biggest difference so far. Let me know in the comment section about that. Like I said, if you like the video, follow my social media sites. A lot of content coming with this free agency stuff, Kevin Durant. You can expect a lot of content. So post notifications, turn them on. Like I said, man, follow my social media sites. Do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.